Welcome to Porch Play Chats, sponsored by the American Association for Promoting the Child's Right to Play, or more affectionately called IPA-USA. IPA-USA is the USA affiliate of the International Play Association. As part of our efforts to promote play, we're introducing the Porch Play Chats, and these are conversations with experts on specific topics about play. You can find Porch Play Chats on our IPA-USA.org website, or you can find them on our YouTube channel, Instagram, or on our Facebook page. All that you can access from the IPA-USA.org website. So I'm Debra Lawrence, and I'm the president of IPA-USA, and with me on the porch is Lisa Murphy, one of our board members and a passionate expert on play. Good morning, Lisa.
Hello.
And Marcy Guddemi, who is also a well-known, famous individual who is passionate about play, also our historian and a past president of IPA-USA. And so today's topic that Marcy wants us to focus on is the therapeutic value of play. And so, Marcy, I've heard a lot of your talks on the importance of play and how you really focus on the sociodramatic area of play and its benefits. So can you expand a little bit on that and tell us why that type of play is so therapeutic for young children who might have experienced trauma or who might be in a situation that is sort of anxiety inducing. So that's, I think, where we'd like to start. So we're so glad to have you.
Okay, thank you very much. Happy to be here. Let me just clarify though, my name is pronounced Guddemi, Marcy Guddemi. Marcy's easy and Guddemi is hard. But
yes, it is. And I'm sorry. She's given me okay. 3 or 4 prompts and I still messed it up. I even wrote it phonetically. It didn't help.
that's okay. So anyways, yeah, I love talking about play. I mean, I've been in this field for a really long time. And just recently, you know, within the last, you know, maybe year or 2 years, I've really discovered that all play is important, as we've known for ages and ages. All play is important, but sociodramatic play is the most important play. And the reason I think it's the most important play is that during sociodramatic play, that's when children really develop their executive functioning skills. You know, focus, self-control, persistence, perspective taking, critical thinking, problem solving. All that is happening during this sociodramatic play. And to get children to that level of play it takes a skilled classroom teacher to facilitate that. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. But you know, sociodramatic play, what is sociodramatic play? And sociodramatic play really is, or could be summed up as pretend play. And so when I say sociodramatic play, socio means with others. So sociodramatic, you know, with others. But just play pretend even alone can be very, very therapeutic and very, very cathartic. To kind of set the stage, playing and pretend play is the precursor of what adults do with daydreaming. You know, we daydream all the time. You know, we might daydream about, like I daydreamed about how I was going to do this presentation. You know, we daydream about, you know, how we're going to go shopping or what chores we're going to do this day. So those are daydreams. But the other thing we do as adults is we talk things out. You know, it's like psychoanalysis. You know, we talk about the speeding ticket that we got. You know, we talk about upcoming surgery, or, you know, we just talk things out. So that's what we do as adults. But what children do is they do it through pretend play, sociodramatic pretend play, or pretend play alone. And you've all seen children spank their baby dolls or give the doll a shot. But you know, we see all types of that. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the things that we will see. But just recently, I read an article in the New York Times, and it was written by a mother who's not an early childhood person, but her 5-year-old child during this pandemic, all she wanted to do was to play, if you will, the game of the child was the older sister in this case, and the mother had to pretend to be the child. So this older sister, you know, older sister, you know, was telling the child, you know, what to do. You know, don't touch that. You know, stay close to me. You know, we have to wear our mask. You know, all the kind of things that is going on in the child's mind. And it just dawned on me that that was a perfect example of how play is therapeutic. As that child was working through her trauma, she was doing it by telling her mother, you know, who was pretending to be the child, what to do. I just thought that was such an interesting article because it was written by, like I said, a non-educator. But what we know in the education world is that play is the child's first language. That's how children express themselves, and that's how they learn about the world. And also play is the expression of their most inner emotions and thoughts. And when children play, it actually heals that trauma, as I gave you an example just a moment ago. But another notion that I think is interesting in this therapeutic value of play is that when children are born, it's almost entirely the right side of the brain that is in control. And around age 7, the left brain takes over. Now, it's not a, you know, black and white on and off shift. It's like a 45-degree slope line. So as the child gets older, more and more left brain comes in. And again, you see that with, you know, how children are learning language, you know, learning all the different things that require left brain thinking. But this right brain thinking is what's happening during our preschool years. And the play, or excuse me, the trauma that's stored in the right brain is healed with play. So the more the child plays, the deeper the feelings are, and the deeper the emotions, and the more important it is to allow children to do that therapeutic play. I'll give you a couple examples of what I've seen in either my classroom or my husband's classroom. You know, I saw a little girl get on the phone in the dramatic play area, and she'd say, "I can't take it anymore. Don't call me anymore. I've had it." And then hang up the phone real hard, and then pick up the phone and do it again. She'd do it like over and over again, like maybe 7 or 8 times. But that was her working out that trauma, obviously, of a home situation where the mother is very upset with whomever it is that's on the phone. And then this is really interesting. This next example is really interesting when you think about what's going on with social injustice and Black Lives Matter. Now, this was a couple years ago, but this little guy, his father was actually arrested at his home. And the theme that child played was, "Let's hide from the police. Everybody hide. The police are coming. Everybody hide." And again, just playing that same theme over and over again. But that was how the child was trying to work through this trauma of seeing his father taken away by police. So again, we see this therapeutic value of play as they work through their trauma by acting it out. Now, children can act it out in what we call the microsphere, which is manipulating little animals or the toy house or the figurines, or it can be the macrosphere, as I just explained, where the whole child is actually acting out what's going on in the world.
Marcy, can I interject here really quick,
Yes.
please? I wanted to clarify for our viewers and listeners that preschool people who aren't trained in play therapy or in any therapy in any way, manner, shape, or form, I think it's important just to clarify that you can still hold the space where the therapeutic value is something that the child is able to receive, whether or not you've been trained per se in this. I think the only word of caution I would remind is that in order for the child to reap the benefits of that, we need to make sure that we're not projecting our adult judgments onto the play, because I think sometimes unintentionally, because it might make the adult nervous or whatever, or uncomfortable, then we shut that play down. So at any possible moment when I can remind adults to let the play have its organic beginning and middle and an end, whether or not you consider yourself a therapist, the child is still benefiting so very much from that play being quote unquote allowed to play out.
I love that point, and I'm so glad you made it, because that's hopefully what people will take from this little porch chat that we're having, is that all teachers and all parents should allow their children to play, and that's going to be one of my final points that I make. But just you don't have to be judgmental, as you said, and you don't have to set it up. It just happens naturally. Just like that New York Times article of the child that was playing, with the virus and being, cautioning her mother, not to touch things and all. It just happens. And that's the reason teachers should be aware that, and parents as well, when it happens, just let it happen. You can also be part of that play theme, like the mother in the New York Times story did. Actually, the mother said near the end of the article, she said, I am really tired of playing this theme over and over again every day, but this is what my child wants to play. And I was just so happy that she said that, because the child obviously wasn't ready to give up that play yet. And so that's another thing to add to what you just said, Lisa, is allow it to happen and, encourage, but let the child take the lead. Don't set it up that the child, don't set up the trauma, let the child, let that come out naturally and organically, as you said.
And so I think the other thing that we need to help viewers understand, if it's parents or early care and education professionals or anyone who works with children, is that this doesn't just take 2 minutes, right?
Yes.
You may get bored, but the child is not bored. And so
Exactly. Can
we talk about giving the child the space and the time and the importance of that?
Well, before I get into that, let me just say 2 more things about the therapeutic value of play and what teachers and parents do versus the whole field of play therapy. And again, as Lisa said, we're not therapists, but we need to be aware that this is, again, a proven science. And if the viewers have not seen the book or read the book by Virginia Axline called Dibbs in Search of Self, I highly recommend it. It was written in 1947, but it's still, I went on the play therapy website association to see, what was still being talked about and all, and they still list this 1947 book, Dibbs in Search of Self, as the quintessential case study of a child who through play therapy was able to regain a normal childhood. The child's parents were very, very controlling and did not believe in play, which is what's so amazing. So in play therapy, or I should say, as in what we were just talking about, in play therapy, the child picks what they want to play and what they want to draw on paper. The therapist does nothing to tell the child what to do or to ask those probing questions. They just let the child play. So again, like I said, I wanted to mention that there's lots people could read if they want to. But what we're going to see is that children are going to be showing these symptoms of distress or these symptoms of trauma. They're going to start acting out more. They're going to be more aggressive. They're going to be regressive. They're going to go back to, a baby talk or wetting their beds or whatever. They're going to be clingy. They're going to be, and I think this is always a harder child, the child that withdraws, because you don't know what that child is thinking because they're not really talking. But the antidote for all of this is simply providing enough time for unstructured play. And nothing could be more important than providing this. Now, I normally say that children need at least an hour to get into the play scenario. The older the child gets, this is funny, the older the child gets, the more planning that the child does. They'll say, okay, let's pretend that I'm the mother, and let's pretend that you're the child, and let's pretend we're going down in the elevator, and they set up the whole scene. And it takes a while to set up that scene. So if you only give children, like 20 minutes to play, that whole 20 minutes could be spent on setting up the play rather than the child being really engaged in the play. So like I said, at least an hour of unstructured, and they also need that time outside. Outside, they're going to learn things and do things that they can't do indoors. And, I used to say that the play structure on the playground is just the setting. That what children play when they're, going down the slide, or what they play when they're, up on that little platform of the play structure, the dramatic play that's happening during that time is more, in my opinion, is more important than the physical play, but that's the setting. So they need that time and that space. And the other thing, and we've already mentioned it, but the adult needs to play with the child. If the child wants, the adult needs to take on a role and play with the child. And again, really, I don't know how to say this exactly, but really get into the role yourself as an adult. Don't feel like, oh, I'm the adult and I'm going to ask those questions. Well, what do you think we should do next? Don't do that. You just do an action, and then whatever happens next happens next. So taking on that role with the child is really important.
If you're invited, I think that needs to be reiterated. There's a big difference. That's a whole other porch chat, which is and it'll divide a room occasionally of whether or not people think that they should or should not. And I think the initial point of entry is, were you invited to come in, versus do you think you should be there? Because I'm on the side of the fence that if they don't say, get over here and be the dog, I leave it alone. I'm very much engaged, right, as a facilitator and an observer, but I'm of the camp of leave it alone. It's not your party.
Yeah, I agree. I could not agree more. But now this is what happens, and especially during the pandemic, where the child is home with just the parents, say, there are no other children. I had an only child, so my husband and I did a lot of pretend play with our daughter because we were her playmates. So again, while they're home and they don't have any other play partners, they definitely need the adult to join in. But again, if they have two dolls or two figures, they make the figures, talk to each other and do things. So you really have to, read the situation. Like you said, Lisa, if you're not invited, it's not your party. I like that a lot. But the other thing that I'll add to what we just said is children need props. They need stuff, and again, it doesn't have to be anything that's store-bought. My daughter used to love to open up the cabinets in the kitchen, the bottom cabinets where I kept canned goods, and play grocery store. There's all kinds of ways kids play with just the everyday things that are in a house. But again, they do need things. And again, you're not going to make things. They're just going to you know, they're just going to be there, which should be part of a well-equipped classroom or playroom for a child. So, that's kind of the main points of what I wanted to talk about. But maybe I'll end on the note that this is so important. It's so important. And, you know, having been in the field for many, many years, I don't see enough time in the classroom given to allow the child to get into this deep therapeutic play. And so again, for teachers, when you get back in the classroom with these children that are definitely going to come in stressed, traumatized by what has happened and what we're going to be doing to the kids in the classroom, if they have to wear masks, in the play corner or wherever they're playing, they're going to want to play with masks. They're going to want to make masks. They're going to want to, you know, tell other kids what to do. I love how kids, you know, really take control and tell the others what to do in the play scenario. But all that is just so important.
Marcy, thank you. One of the things you touched on and that Lisa touched on that I want to just circle back to for a second is that I think as teachers, sometimes we feel like we should be doing something. So if the child doesn't invite me in, right, maybe they're involved with 2 or 3 other children in their cooperative or mature play, and I feel like I should be doing something. Well, I need to be busy. I need to be teaching them something.
I'll tell you what to do. You need to be observing.
Yes.
This is what you're gonna find out things about that child by watching the child play. So take some little notes, you know, for your anecdotal records or whatever, but observation is huge in this case.
And that's exactly what I wanted you to say, because I think teachers feel like they aren't doing enough and that parents will question this play. But if we can do the observations and explain to parents what's happening during
and
that
hold on, I'm going to interrupt there too, because this needs to be said a lot more too. You don't need to go off on a tangent of explaining and defending it unless somebody lets you know that they need that. I think sometimes younger teachers, not even younger, but maybe just less experienced, they think that they have to explain absolutely everything when it doesn't look like they are doing like mug jug theory, right? If I'm not teaching them something, then I have to get all defensive and somehow prove that it's valuable. To teachers who are struggling with that, to the observation piece that we were just talking about, when you're sitting there observing, writing down your notes, what are you noticing? But then practice, like what Deb was saying, practice. What would you say to somebody who walked in and said, paint me a picture of the learning that's happening here? Like actually put yourself through the, what do I want to say? Like getting into the habit of knowing how to link the words to that. So it's not that I'm not doing anything, it's that I'm actually deepening my understanding. If I'm out there carrying the sign that said children need long periods of uninterrupted free time, and yet I am not really comfortable that anything's going on, I'm training my own self to become.
That's so important. And that's the reason I am such an advocate of well-trained early childhood educators, because teachers need to know why they're doing what they're doing and be able to speak it. I often call that the language. You know, they need to be able to explain and understand that this is I want to say science-based. This is what children need to be doing. They need just uninterrupted play in general, but now in particular, I'm going to back up and say children always need time to work through their trauma, whether the trauma is, I'll tell you another example of my own daughter that I usually use is when she was in preschool, at one point, in her bedroom at home, she would she'd lay out like 5 or 6 little blankets around her bedroom, and she'd put an animal or a stuffed doll, a stuffed animal or a doll on each of the blankets. Then she'd sit on her little chair and she'd say, "It's nap time. I want take a nap. I don't want to see any eyes. And she would play that over and over again because obviously nap time was very traumatic for her.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great story. Marcy, thank you so much for this is such an important topic that I think is relevant in a COVID environment or out of a COVID environment, that we just really need to understand the value of play as a therapeutic outlet for children.
Right.
So for more porch play chats, be sure and visit IPAUSA.org. We have a whole series of them, and we release them every Monday on our Facebook channel and on our YouTube channel, and you can get both of those through our website. So thank you so much. Until next time.
Okay. My
Bye.
pleasure. Thank
Thanks,
you. Bye,
Marcy.
everybody.